Hola, clase, y bienvenidos a la lección de los tiempos perfectos. Hello, class, and welcome to today's lesson on the perfect tenses. The perfect tenses. What are these things, you may be asking? Well, let me give you an example, starting in English. You're going to use the verb to have done something. So, not have in the sense of possessing, like, I have a pet sloth. No, I have eaten, for example. In Spanish, this verb to have is not tener, but rather haber. And in the done something part of it, in English, the eaten part of it is called the past participle, or participio pasivo. To say I have eaten in Spanish, yo he comido. Now let's explore a little further how this works. To form this past participle thing, the second part of it, not the to have, the eaten part of it, for your Spanish AR verbs, change the AR to ado. For verbs ending in ER and IR, change it to ido. Let's do some examples. Dar, in the past participle, is going to be dado. Ser, sido. Ir, ido. It's actually regular. Preguntas? ER and IR verbs, this is for the past participle, that have a vowel in front of the ER and IR endings, get an accent in the past participle when it changes to ido. For example, leer would be what, class? That's right, leído. ¿Y cómo se deletrea leído? L-E-I con acento de O. What about oír? That's right, oído with an accent where? Over the I. There's this verb freír in Spanish, which means to fry. And for some reason, it has two different possible past participles. Not sure exactly which one is more common, but use the one that sounds the best to you. That's my advice. Frito, which you've heard used as an adjective in papas fritas, and then freído with an accent over the I. Which do you prefer, class? Muy bien. Irregular past participles. Now, some AR verbs don't just change to ado, and some ER and IR verbs don't just change to ido. Here's a sampling of the most common irregular past participles. Abrir changes to this. Repeat, class. Abierto. Cubrir, repeat. Cubierto. Decir. Dicho. Escribir. Escrito. Hacer. Hecho. Morir. Muerto. Poner. Puesto. Resolver. Resuelto. Romper. Roto. Ver. Visto. Volver. Vuelto. Now, other words that have these words in them, like deshacer, is going to conjugate the same way. So it's going to have the same type of a past participle. Deshacer would be deshecho, etc. You may recognize some of these past participles because you've seen them used as adjectives. Adjectives like muerto for dead, or roto for broken. Bien? Let's start with the present perfect, or in Spanish, el pretérito perfecto. What you do is conjugate the verb haber in the present and use the past participle. So, to say I have eaten, our first example, you're going to say I have, which is what? That's right, yo he. And then for eaten, you're going to take comer, change the ER to ido, he comido. All right, class. Repeat the present tense forms of haber after me. He, has, ha, hemos, han, he, has, ha, hemos, han. Good. Does that ring any bells? Hearing that out loud? It should. Phonetically, those are the same as the future tense endings in Spanish, which you attach to the infinitive. Fascinante? Now let's move on to the past perfect, or el pluscuamperfecto, also known in English as the pluperfect. You've heard of that, right? What you're saying now is I had done something. You had done something. He or she, we, they had done something. You want haber in the imperfect. Repeat after me, class. Había, habías, había, habíamos, habían. I had eaten. ¿Cómo se dice eso en español? Perfecto. Yo había comido. Do I need the yo there? Yes. Había can be I had done, he, she, it had done, usted. Preguntas? Let's move on to the present perfect subjunctive. So basically here you are still saying I have done something, you have, we have, they have, he has done something, but just like using the present subjunctive, this is going to be introduced by some type of a clause that causes you to use subjunctive. For example, I am happy that, or I'm happy you've eaten. That emotion of happiness in the first clause sets up subjunctive in the second clause. Remember all this? ¿Sí o no? So you're going to say something like, me alegro que hayas comido. Repeat these forms after me, class. Haya, hayas, haya, hayamos, hayan. Let's move on to the past perfect subjunctive, el pluscuamperfecto del subjuntivo, otherwise known in English as the pluperfect subjunctive. So, again, you're saying I had done something, you had, we had done something, but there's something in front of it subjunctifying it. For example, I was glad that you had eaten. That emotion of gladness in the past sets up subjunctive with the you had eaten clause. In Spanish, estaba alegre, or whatever, estaba alegre que hubieras comido. Repeat these forms after me, class. Hubiera, hubieras, hubiera, hubiéramos, hubieran. Bien. And there's more of them. The future perfect. What's this going to be? That's right. To say something like, I will have eaten in the future, you can use form of haber in the future plus the past participle. En español, habré comido antes de las 5. Repeat these forms after me, class. Habré, habrás, habrá, habremos, habrán. Accents not where. That's right, the nosotros form. What would be next? The conditional. This is when you're saying, I would have done something. So, to say I would have eaten if I could, you're going to say yo habría comido si pudiera. Repeat these forms after me, class. Habría, habrías, habría, habríamos, habrían. Bien? And there's always some irregularities. What do we have here? When you're forming this, you cannot separate haber and the past participle. So to use the perfect tenses, you're always going to have some form of the verb haber, and then the past participle, which never changes with haber. All you're changing is the form of the verb haber, but any pronouns or other types of words must go in front of haber. Whereas in English, we can split up the have and the participle. Look at this. I've never seen that. In Spanish, you have to say, nunca he visto eso. You cannot put the nunca in between the form of haber and the participle. Pronouns go in front of haber, or they can be attached to it if it's used as an infinitive. I've already eaten it. Ya lo he comido. You cannot attach pronouns to the past participle, by the way. Must go in front of haber or attached to it as an infinitive. Preguntas?